In this video, you will learn to add a trend to a PC IP controller. You'll also expose a PCT point to BACnet to accept an internal trend, and then import the IP controller trends to the FX supervisor. Adding an internal trend to a IP controller is done by selecting the Advanced tab under Features. I simply go down to Trends, select it, right-click, and add a trend. I'll add a total of 5 trends to my PCV controller. And I want you to notice that each trend defaults to 144 samples. And there are a total of 24,000 trend samples available to use. So that gives us quite a number of trends. And here's my 5 trends. Now I'll go and select my first trend and edit that. And I'll just give it a name of zone temp. And then come down to the input reference and select the hardware. So there's my zone temperature. Select the present value. In this case, though, I'll go ahead and set the buffer size to 1152. Instead of using the default 10 minutes between sample, I'll go ahead and reduce it to 5 minutes or 300 seconds. The next trend I want to set up is going to be the effective cooling set point. So and I'll take the input reference. In this case, I'll need to select logic, set points miscellaneous, and zone temperature determination. And there's the effective cooling set point. Now the buffer size here is at 144, and I'll go and set this up under a COV increment so I don't have a trend continuously running on something that's not changing very often. So let's just put it in for 0.1 degrees. So every time it changes 0.1 degrees, I'll have a trend sample. The interval time doesn't matter. And again, 144 is good, but I could go all the way up to 5,000, but we'll just leave it at 144 since we'll have plenty of trend samples available for what we want to accomplish. Next, I'll go to the effective cooling set point. Effective heating set point. Select that trend. Or the trend point. Again, I'll set it up under a COV. So if it's a non-zero COV increment, I'll use COV updating instead of the time sample interval. The last two I'll use for CFM and CFM set point. And again, the CFM is under logic, under set points miscellaneous, and there's a calculation right there. I'll set this up for 1152 samples at 300 seconds. That'll give me 4 full days
of trend samples. Last trend, I want to go and go to the supply flow set point control, view the logic, make sure that the flow set point is exposed to BACnet. Now that that's done, I can go edit that trend, call it CFM set point. That's going to be an output under logic. There's a set point control. There's a flow set point I just added. Again, I'll set it up for 1152 samples at 300 seconds. Now those 5 samples, those 5 trends, and I have 3 of them at 1152, give me a total of only 3,744 samples compared to the total of 24,000. So I have quite a number available to add if I wanted to trend more samples. Now that I have all the trends added, I'll go ahead and transfer that station or transfer that application down to my device. I'll use the direct Ethernet. Select that PCV controller and do the download. Now, as that downloads the updated application with the trend sample, I can switch over to Workbench. And here's Workbench. I'll access this station. And I'll go to the BACnet driver where that IP VAV is. Now I simply select the trend logs and I'll rediscover that, but you already see that I have my 5 trends available, and add those to my supervisor. Here I can set this up to come in at a daily trend, a manual trend, or an interval trend. In this case, I'm going to do daily, and let's just bring it in at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'll make sure I select all 5. Again, 8 o'clock, and save those. So now I have trends that will update and bring in the points every day. Let's just go ahead and execute this. And notice I can also clear all the records out of the controller for old data. But I'm just going to execute this to bring in all those trends. Now, the beauty of using trends from the IP controller is that these points, these 5 points, number one, they don't have to be added to the network. And number 2, they don't have to be trended by the BACnet driver, which will take a great deal of bandwidth away from bandwidth used by the BACnet driver and give you a lot more capacity of your supervisor. So let's go up to the point histories. And here's the point histories. Let's go find the history list. Now, here is the IPVAV, so you also get the the trends listed under the controller, which is a nice feature. And let's look at the zone temperature trend. So here's the zone temperature trend operating in the FX supervisor, even though the trend exists down in the controller level. Lastly, let's go to PCT, and hit commissioning. We can also see the values of those internal trends in PCT, along with the map if we were using the map. And here is a CFM, there's a zone temperature trend. So we have three different places to view the trends: PCT, the map, and also FX Workbench.